Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into two FBI kidnapping cases that look similar on the surface. Wealthy families, a terrifying disappearance, but as you'll see, they end in completely, and I mean completely different ways. So, on one hand, we have 13-year-old Amy McNeal, who is violently ripped from her brother's car. And on the other, 73-year-old Annie Laurie Herron, who just vanished from her own home. The starting points for these two cases could not be more different, and that forced the FBI down two totally separate paths to find justice. All right, first up, let's look at how these crimes actually began, because the first few moments really set the stage for everything that came after. Amy McNeal's case was pure, violent, public chaos. Picture this. It's 7:45 in the morning. A Jeep gets forced off the road. 1 minute later, there are gunmen at the window. A minute after that, Amy is dragged out at gunpoint. The whole thing was brutal, fast, and over in just a few minutes. And here's what immediately terrified investigators. Sheriff Eddie Boggs said it best. The kidnappers didn't even wear masks. You know, when criminals are that brazen, it usually means one thing. They aren't planning on leaving any witnesses behind to identify them. A truly chilling detail right from the get-go. But then you have the Herron case, which was the complete opposite. It was a silent, eerie vanishing act. Her husband walks into an empty house, her purse, her shoes, even her critical daily medicine, all just sitting there. The only things out of place, a bizarre typed ransom note and a single ominous drop of her blood on the doorframe. No witnesses, just a quiet, deeply unnerving mystery. You know, the why behind any crime changes absolutely everything. So let's dig into the motives here, because they were worlds apart. For Amy McNeal's kidnappers, the motive was as old as crime itself. Cash. $100,000 to be exact. It turned out there were a bunch of ex-convicts strung out on meth and just looking for a quick score to feed their habit. But the note left at the Herron house? Whoa. This was something else entirely. It wasn't a simple ransom demand. It was this strange, rambling command to pay back a list of men from an old business deal. This wasn't just a stick-up. This was personal. It was all about something much, much deeper than money. And this right here really lays it all out. You can see the two completely different kinds of criminals the FBI was up against. On one side, a sloppy crew of ex-cons desperate for cash. On the other, a single, careful, and paranoid attorney nursing a grudge for years. One case was a tactical problem. The other, well, it was a psychological chess match. So with such different motives, the FBI had to pull out two totally different playbooks. Let's see how they tackled each investigation. The McNeal investigation was pure action. It turned into this wild goose chase all over East Texas. They had Amy's dad driving over 200 miles from one payphone to the next. It was this frantic, high-stakes game that eventually ended in a high-speed chase and a full-blown shootout. The Herron case, though, it was a deep, deep dive into the human mind. With almost no physical evidence to go on, the FBI's behavioral science unit put together a profile. They figured the suspect was a paranoid, middle-aged guy acting out of revenge, and he was almost certainly one of the men named in that bizarre note. Just like that, they narrowed the field down to one person, an attorney named N. Alfred Wynn. So, instead of car chases, the FBI's biggest weapon here was information. Their masterstroke? They got a cooperating witness, Wynn's own spiritual advisor, to wear a wire and secretly record their conversations. It was a patient, psychological trap, perfectly designed to catch a guy who was incredibly careful. So we've got two different crimes, two different investigations, which unfortunately brings us to two tragically different outcomes. In the McNeal case, that aggressive, tactical approach worked. After 44 terrifying hours, a firefight brought the chase to an end. Amy was rescued and she was brought home safe. Her kidnappers were caught. A huge sigh of relief. But for the Herron family, there was no reunion. Despite the FBI's incredible psychological work that led them right to the kidnapper, he never, ever told them where Annie was. Her body was never found. And look at the sentences. The McNeal kidnappers got life in prison. But Wynn? He was convicted on conspiracy to kidnap and got just under 20 years. Why? Because without a body or a confession, a murder charge was simply impossible. The Herron family got a conviction, sure, but they were denied the one thing they wanted most, the closure of knowing what really happened. So what's the big takeaway here? It's a really chilling reality for law enforcement. The brute force of the McNeal kidnappers was terrifying, no doubt, but their desperation and sloppiness also made them predictable. In stark contrast, the cold, calculating mind of N. Alfred Wynne, a man who wanted revenge, not money, created a mystery that has lasted to this day. And it leaves you with a really tough question, doesn't it? Which type of criminal is truly more dangerous?